I once heard that you haven't made it as a YouTuber if you have not made an apology video. In today's video, I'll be apologizing to a lot of you who have come through my channel because of a video that I made where I said the best lens for your Sony A7IV is the Sigma 28-70 contemporary lens. This apology comes because I don't think, it's not that I've changed my mind and think that it's a bad lens. I just feel like it depends, and I just feel like these lenses have a limit. There's a limit to what each lens can do, and whichever lens you end up picking for your shoot is determined on what you're trying to achieve. As I've used this lens for the past few months with my Sony FX3 and the Sony A7IV, I've reached a point whereby when I take photos on my A7IV, they look bright. Everything looks bright on the screen, and then when you translate that to Lightroom, the photos look way dark, like I'm 2 steps down, and then you have to push it back up, which is a problem, right? And one thing that I've realized and that I think is a problem is because you cannot really open the aperture very much beyond 2.8, and this is just a problem of having a zoom lens, I feel like, and that's why I'm making this video. Whilst I think when you're beginning, these lenses are probably the best things that you can get. You can get yourself a zoom lens that's 2.8. That means you can open it way better than a kit lens, which probably is like 3.5 to, or 4. The main thing is these lenses have limitations, especially if you try to shoot in the dark. If you see my style is more of, I'm not a fan of so much light. Like, I like underexposing my image, and these lenses have a limit. You cannot really underexpose, because in order to underexpose, it means you have to open up your aperture, especially if you want to limit the amount of light that you have. And the quality that these lenses can provide is very limited. The images are not as sharp as I want them to be. And moving forward, what I'm going to try and do is to get a prime lens, because I feel like prime lenses offer you more sharpness than zoom lenses can, hence not making these lenses the best thing that you can buy. Now, if you ask me which lens am I going to buy, right now I want to get the G Master 35mm, because I feel like if you're gonna use Sony, you might as well just use Sony brands. I'm starting to think there's just a challenge with having Sigma lenses on my Sony, because Sony has this thing whereby when you go in your menu system and you're trying to put in some certain settings, it'll just say not supported with this lens. Let's say for focus, breathing, compensation and stuff like that, it'll say not supported by this lens is not. And then you're like, you know what, I might as well just put Sony hardware on a Sony camera body. But the G Master is quite expensive, so before I get that one, I'm likely to get the Sigma 35, and then with time finally get the G Master. So if you had asked me which is the best lens to get, I'd say get the Sony system lenses. They are quite expensive, so depending on your budget, get what your budget allows you and start creating, because at the end of the day, the people who really know what type of quality of, when people are watching your videos, they're just watching your video. They don't really know which lens you use. They don't really know what got into it. It's like when you buy bread, you barely ask what was the process. Did you put water? Did you put milk? How would I know? All I know is bread tastes like bread. If a video looks like a video, people, that's all they want. It's just a matter of your artistic style, which is why I'm making this video. My artistic style requires for me to have a prime lens, because the other thing is, when being in school, when you have a zoom lens and you're trusting someone to take videos of you, what people don't do, which is something that I took from Nolan and all those other directors, is move the camera, not the lens. And what people do when you give someone to be a DOP, they don't really want to do a lot of work, and if they have a zoom lens, people just tend to zoom in. And the problem with just zooming in is zooming in crashes your background, so it distorts the image, which makes it impossible to edit. And having a prime lens, I just feel like will create a solution for me whereby whoever I'm trusting to hold the camera, if I'm in front of camera, has to move the camera in order to have the best composition for my shots. So I feel if we were to say what's the best lens, then I feel like prime lenses are better. However, I do understand at cost, one prime lens like the G Master costs almost 2,000 Canadian dollars. And that's the price of the two lenses that I currently own. Like, I own the Sigma 16 to 28 and then the Sigma 28 to 70, and those two lenses cost the price of one G Master 35. So it's not cheap. Prime lenses are not cheap, but the one thing that they offer you is that sharpness and the ability to open up your aperture as much as to 1.4 to 1.8. Before I even get the G Master, I think I'm gonna get the Sony 1.8 and then we'll do a review of that. But I just wanted to make this apology video saying I'm sorry for if I misled you into getting these lenses. There's nothing bad with them, but there's a limit that I've run into 2 months after making that video. Let me know in the comment section which lenses do you guys use, which lenses do you recommend for price. I'm also looking into the rocking ones just for my cinematic videos because I want to make more short films, and those are some of the challenges that I run into because sometimes you want to open the aperture so you can have more for blurry ground, but like if you're limited to 2.8, then you have to start playing with different factors. So yeah, this is food for thought.